Have you ever noticed how our lives are gradually turning into a game? A morning run with a fitness tracker that awards you virtual medals. A language learning app where you earn points and compete with friends. Even a coffee shop where you get one free cup for every 10 you buy. This is gamification, the integration of game mechanics into non-game contexts of our lives. In simple terms, transforming mundane actions into an engaging game. Progress bars, levels, achievements, ratings. These elements surround us everywhere, subtly changing our behavior and psychological state. But what happens to our psyche when life turns into an endless game? Does gamification help us become better? Or does it manipulate us, creating an illusion of achievement? Does the constant pursuit of virtual rewards affect our mental health? And where is the line between useful motivation and digital addiction? These questions are becoming increasingly relevant in a world where the boundaries between game and reality are blurring every day. Games have accompanied humanity since ancient times. Our ancestors played dice, competed in agility and strength long before the emergence of the first civilizations. These early forms of play activity served an important social function, teaching skills, strengthening social ties, and even helping to relieve psychological tension. In essence, this was the first primitive gamification, the use of game elements in a non-game context of life. From children's games of hopscotch to nightly tournaments, humanity has always strived to turn routine into something more engaging. However, a true revolution occurred with the advent of the digital age. What once existed only in a local format suddenly gained global reach. The first video games of the 1970s and 1980s created a new paradigm for human interaction with the virtual world. The appearance of the internet in the 1990s and smartphones in the 2000s finally blurred the lines between gaming and real space. Today we observe how gamification penetrates literally every sphere of life. Educational platforms use point and level systems to maintain student motivation. Medical applications turn healthcare into an engaging quest. Corporations implement game mechanics to increase employee productivity. Even government agencies experiment with gamification to involve citizens in social processes. A qualitative leap has occurred. From simple badges and points, we have moved to complex systems that consider human psychological characteristics and are capable of forming stable behavioral patterns. Why do we fall so easily for gamification? The answer lies in the depths of our brain, in ancient mechanisms responsible for pleasure and motivation. When we gain points, complete a level, or see a progress bar filling up, the reward system in the brain is activated. Dopamine is released, a neurotransmitter responsible for feelings of pleasure and motivation. This same mechanism underlies many natural pleasures, from delicious food to social recognition. Game mechanics masterfully exploit this system, creating a predictable link between action and reward. Unlike real life, where the result of our efforts can be delayed or unclear, games provide instant and understandable feedback. Completed a task, received a reward, simple and effective. A special role in the psychological impact of gamification is played by the state of flow, described by psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. This is a special state of complete immersion in an activity, when the difficulty of the task perfectly matches our skills. Time seems to stop, and consciousness completely merges with the action. Well-designed, gamified systems create conditions for achieving this state, gradually increasing the difficulty of tasks as our skills grow. In a state of flow, we not only experience deep satisfaction, but also demonstrate maximum productivity. Gamification also masterfully uses the principle of variable reinforcement, one of the most powerful tools for habit formation. When a reward doesn't come every time, but with some unpredictability, we become literally obsessed with the action. This is why it's so hard to tear ourselves away from social networks with their unpredictable likes, or from games with random, valuable rewards. Behind the scenes of every gamified system lies a carefully crafted motivational design, a set of tools created to manage our behavior. These tools are so effective that we often don't even realize their influence on our decisions and actions. Points and scores are the most basic elements of this design. They give us a sense of measurable progress, transforming abstract achievements into concrete numbers. When a running app shows that you've burned 300 calories, it's no longer just a walk. It's a measurable achievement. Levels and ranks add a social dimension, creating hierarchy and status. Being on a golden loyalty tier with an airline isn't just about bonuses, it's about prestige, a feeling of belonging to an elite. Achievements and badges play on our collecting nature. We strangely strive to fill all empty slots, to get all possible rewards, even if they have no material value. Progress bars exploit our desire for completion. Psychological research shows that incomplete tasks cause cognitive tension that we strive to eliminate. Seeing a progress bar filled to 90%, we experience an almost physical need to finish it. Virtual currencies and resources blur the line between real and game economies, making us value digital assets sometimes more than real ones. When gamification is applied wisely, it becomes a powerful tool for positive changes in our psyche. Research shows that regular interaction with properly designed game mechanics can significantly improve cognitive functions. For example, users of the Lumosity app, who perform daily game tasks for memory, attention, and information processing speed, demonstrate a 20% improvement in these indicators after 3 months of use. Our brain, like a muscle, needs training, and gamification makes this training enjoyable and consistent. Particularly impressive results are observed in the development of emotional intelligence and stress resistance. The Super Better app, created by game designer Jane McGonigal after a severe traumatic brain injury, helps users overcome depression, anxiety, and physical ailments by completing small game tasks. Clinical trials have shown that Super Better users recover from depressive episodes 35% faster compared to a control group. Gamification also becomes a powerful tool for forming positive habits. The Habitica app turns daily tasks into a role-playing game where completing tasks develops a virtual character. Users report a 67% likelihood of maintaining a new, healthy habit after 2 months of use, a figure significantly exceeding average results with traditional methods. Perhaps the most surprising effect of gamification is its ability to help overcome mental barriers. When a complex task is broken down into small, achievable steps with immediate rewards, the paralyzing fear of failure disappears. We begin to act without thinking about the scale of the task. This is especially valuable when learning new skills, where the fear of making mistakes often becomes the main obstacle. Education has always sought ways to make learning more engaging, and gamification has become a true breakthrough in this area. When a student sees not just a task, but a mission, not a grade, but a level of mastery, the very essence of the educational experience changes. The Kahoot platform has transformed ordinary tests into exciting competitions, where speed and accuracy of answers earn points and a place in the rankings. Studies show that material learned through such interactive formats is remembered 40% better than with a traditional approach. Duolingo uses an entire arsenal of game mechanics, from daily goals and progress streaks to virtual currency and competitions, to turn language learning from a tedious obligation into an engaging adventure. More than 80% of users note that it is precisely the game elements that help them maintain motivation and regularity in their studies. However, educational gamification also has a downside. Psychofficials note the phenomenon of motivational displacement, when external stimuli supplant an internal desire for knowledge. Students accustomed to constant stimulation through points and rewards may experience difficulties when transitioning to traditional learning formats where external motivation is minimal. This problem is particularly acute in higher education, where independence and intrinsic motivation play a key role. Finally, the question arises of forming educational autonomy, the ability to learn without external stimuli and gamified crutches. The balance between engagement and the development of autonomy becomes the main challenge for educational gamification in the 21st century. Behind bright badges and cheerful ratings often lies the dark side of gamification. When game mechanics are used not for motivation, but for manipulation, the consequences for the psyche can be devastating. Companies meticulously study our psychological weaknesses to turn them into levers of influence. Endless scrolling of social media feeds, loot box systems in games, intrusive notifications. These are all examples of unethical gamification exploiting our psychology. People with certain character traits become especially vulnerable. Perfectionists, those prone to addictions, those experiencing self-esteem issues. Constant comparison with others in ratings and leaderboards can trigger a destructive cycle of self-criticism. Studies show that active users of gamified social platforms are 40% more likely to experience symptoms of anxiety and depression. Equally dangerous is burnout, which arises from prolonged interaction with gamified systems. When every action turns into a chase for points, emotional exhaustion sets in. Psychologists describe the phenomenon of gamification fatigue, a state where game mechanics cease to bring pleasure but continue to control behavior. Of particular concern is the displacement of intrinsic motivation by extrinsic stimuli. When we get used to receiving a reward for every action, our ability to find pleasure in the process itself diminishes. Activities without obvious game mechanics begin to seem bland and meaningless. This can lead to dependence on external stimuli and an inability to act without them. When gamification transforms from a helpful tool into the master of our lives, we encounter the phenomenon of digital addiction. Just as gambling seizes hold of addicts, gamified systems can create powerful dependencies by manipulating our psychological needs. Neurobiological research from Stanford University shows that the brain does not distinguish the source of dopamine stimulation, be it a drug, gambling, or a notification about a new achievement in an app. A key sign of developing addiction is compulsive behavior, where a person continues to interact with the system despite negative consequences. Checking a smartphone 200 times a day, foregoing sleep to complete a digital task, anxiety when unable to access an app, these are all symptoms of a serious problem. Particularly dangerous are unpredictable reward mechanisms, operating on the principle of slot machines. When we don't know exactly when we will receive a reward, but are sure it will appear with enough attempts, an almost irresistible urge to continue arises. Social networks with their unpredictable likes and comments, games with random valuable items, apps with sudden bonuses, all of them exploit this vulnerability of our psyche. Adolescents and young adults are most susceptible to digital addiction. Their brains, especially the prefrontal cortex responsible for self-control, are not yet fully formed, which makes them vulnerable to manipulative techniques. Also at risk are people with high levels of anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem, for whom virtual achievements become a way to compensate for life's difficulties. It is important to remember that the problem is not gamification itself, but its intentionally exploitative design. Ethical systems create clear boundaries for interaction, avoid manipulative techniques, and offer self-control mechanisms such as usage time notifications or voluntary limits. Social networks have turned our lives into an endless game of likes, reposts, and followers. We no longer just communicate, we earn social capital. Every interaction is digitized, measured, and put on public display. This total gamification of communication fundamentally changes the psychology of our relationships. Rating systems implemented in dating apps turn romantic relationships into a competition where people are evaluated on a 5-point scale. Research by psychologists at the University of California shows a disturbing trend. Users of such apps begin to perceive potential partners as interchangeable objects with a numerical rating, rather than unique individuals. The commodification of human relationships is occurring, their transformation into a commodity with a certain value in the social market. The influence of competitive mechanics is particularly evident. When the number of followers, likes, and comments becomes the measure of social success, the very nature of communication changes. We publish not what is truly important, but what will bring more virtual points. Psychologists note the formation of a special form of social anxiety associated with the constant comparison of one's social metrics with those of others. 83% of young people admit to experiencing stress when their posts receive fewer reactions than those of their peers. No less important is the phenomenon of transferring virtual statuses into real life. A person with 1 million followers expects special treatment in offline spaces, and someone accustomed to constant validation online may experience discomfort in its absence in real-life communication. Our pursuit of health and physical perfection has never been as measurable as it is today. Fitness trackers count every step, apps monitor calories, and smart scales analyze body composition down to tenths of a percent. The era of quantitative self-measurement has transformed healthcare into a continuous game with constant feedback. When a morning run concludes not just with pleasant fatigue, but with a virtual trophy and a position in a friend's ranking, the very psychology of a healthy lifestyle changes. Studies show that users of fitness apps with gamified elements maintain adherence to regular workouts 40% longer. Competitive mechanics create powerful social motivation. No one wants to be at the bottom of their friends list for weekly steps. Virtual badges and achievements activate the collecting instinct, compelling us to go for a run even in rainy weather to earn a rare trophy. However, behind these positive effects lies a psychological transformation that cannot be ignored. For many people, healthcare turns into an obsessive ritual of digital self-monitoring. Every meal must be logged in an app, every workout tracked, every metric analyzed. Psychologists note the rise of a new type of anxiety disorder related to quantitative self-measurement. Fitness tracker syndrome manifests as constant worry about insufficient activity, sleep disturbances due to the desire to achieve ideal metrics, and social isolation when unable to share impressive results. Individuals with perfectionist tendencies and a predisposition to anxious states are particularly vulnerable. For them, the gamification of health can become a trigger, initiating a cycle of self-criticism and dissatisfaction. Where does the line between useful motivation and manipulation lie? This question becomes central in an era where gamification permeates all aspects of our lives. Like any powerful tool, game mechanics can serve both benevolent and self-serving purposes. Ethical gamification begins with transparency. Users must clearly understand what data is collected, how it is used, and what mechanics are applied to influence their behavior. When a meditation app displays a series of achievements, we must realize that these are not just cute icons but tools for habit formation. Informed consent becomes the cornerstone of ethical design. We have the right to know that our behavior is being guided and to consciously accept these rules of the game. This principle is especially important in products for children and adolescents, whose critical evaluation is not yet fully formed. No less significant is the problem of a fair balance of benefits. Who ultimately benefits more from gamification? The user or the system creator? Ethical design implies mutually beneficial relationships, not a one-sided exploitation of psychological vulnerabilities. When a bank gamifies financial literacy, does it truly help customers or simply increase the institution's profit? Responsible developers establish clear boundaries of permissible influence. They avoid addiction-inducing mechanics, provide self-control tools, and respect users' psychological well-being. In a world where human attention has become the most valuable resource, ethical gamification does not seek to capture it at any cost. The world of gamification stands on the threshold of a new era. Virtual and augmented reality, artificial intelligence, and neuro interfaces are poised to revolutionize our understanding of interaction with game mechanics. Already today, VR systems create an unprecedented level of immersion, blurring the lines between game and reality. When you physically move in virtual space and interact with digital objects with your own hands, the brain perceives what is happening as a genuine experience. Neuropsychologists warn, such deep immersion can form memories and skills indistinguishable from real ones. Personalized systems based on artificial intelligence can adapt game mechanics to the psychological profile of a specific person, making gamification even more effective and potentially dangerous. How do we adapt to this new world? Digital awareness becomes a key skill, the ability to notice when we are being manipulated through game mechanics. Digital hygiene practices, regular periods of disengagement from gamified systems, help restore natural motivational mechanisms. Equally important is the development of critical thinking and media literacy from an early age. Children must understand how game mechanics work and what psychological levers they employ. Ultimately, the balance between the beneficial and harmful aspects of gamification depends on our ability to maintain control. Gamification is a tool, and like any tool, it can serve our development or enslave us. The choice is ours.